Baby steps.
This is Infants on Thrones.
I'm looking for the further light and knowledge Father promised to send me.
Baby steps. Baby steps.
Look for the good in everyone.
Welcome back to Infants on Thrones. It's fascinating how we're piecing together this mystery one letter at a time. We've got this man, Dow, who signed up for a clinical trial, the Abacus project. All we know is it involves some pretty advanced technology. But the why is still a total enigma.
It really does make you wonder what Dow got himself into.
Right, and the only clues we have are these 18 letters he left behind. Each one is like a fragment of a larger puzzle. Today we're diving into letter number 3, which Dow titled Tick. Ready to see what we uncover?
Absolutely. Let's hear what Dow has to say.
All right, here's day 3 of letter 3. Hey, love, I don't know how long I've been here in quarantine. Maybe 3 days, probably. But today I noticed something strange. It's like the room keeps shifting, changing, but in these tiny ways. The walls sometimes seem brighter, then dull, like a flicker. Yesterday, I thought I heard a low hum, almost like a machine whirring somewhere nearby. Maybe I'm just hearing things, but it feels off. I keep telling myself it's all in my head, that it's just me adjusting, but it keeps nagging at me. Am I imagining all this? The screen only comes on once a day, so I only have a small window of time to write to you. I'll keep it up, though. Day 14 or bust. Let's do this. Love. Dow. Okay, so we're already getting this unsettling vibe from Dow's description of the room. It's like his environment is unstable, subtly shifting around him. Those flickering walls and mysterious hum. It's enough to make anyone question their sanity, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. What's interesting to me is how quickly these subtle environmental changes seem to be affecting him. It's only day 3, and he's already doubting his own perceptions. We know prolonged isolation can lead to all sorts of psychological effects, but this seems almost accelerated, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and you have to wonder if it's the isolation itself or if the Abacus project is intentionally manipulating his surroundings, maybe even using some kind of technology to induce these sensory distortions. I mean, what if those flickering walls aren't just faulty wiring?
That's a good point. We know very little about the technology being used in the Abacus project. It's possible they're experimenting with techniques we haven't even conceived of.
It's definitely creepy. And the fact that he can only communicate with his love once a day through that screen adds another layer of isolation. It's like they're deliberately cutting him off from any external support.
That limited communication could be a key part of the experiment, depriving him of social interaction, preventing him from getting reassurance from someone outside the situation. That could be a way to amplify the effects of the isolation and whatever else they're doing to him.
Okay, well, let's see what day 4 brings. Hey, love, I counted the tiles on the ceiling today. 36, then 37. They look different each time, I swear. Shapes, colors, movement. Maybe it's the way the light hits them, or maybe I'm just desperate for something to change. I tried piecing around the room, but that only made me dizzy. This silence, it's oppressive. If this is part of the experiment, I bet they're watching, getting a good laugh at me running around like a rat in a maze. That's probably what I'd be doing if I were on the other side of this. Now that's a funny thought. Love Dow. Oh, wow. He's fixated on the ceiling tiles now, their number seemingly changing. It seems like his mind is grasping for any kind of stimulation, any sign of change in this monotonous environment. And then there's that little bit of dark humor at the end. What do you make of that?
The humor is interesting, isn't it? It's almost a defense mechanism, a way to detach from the unsettling reality of a situation. Instead of panicking, he's trying to find a way to laugh about it, even if it's a bit dark. It reminds me of the gallows humor, often used by people in high-stress professions, a coping mechanism to deal with the intensity of what they're experiencing.
It makes you wonder, though, if that detachment is a good thing or a bad thing. Is it helping him maintain his sanity, or is it a sign that he's starting to disconnect from reality?
That's a tough question. It could be a bit of both. Humor can be a healthy way to cope with stress, but it can also be a way to avoid confronting difficult emotions. In Dow's case, it's hard to say for sure which way it's going. But his obsession with the tiles? That's definitely a sign of his growing anxiety and the psychological pressure he's under.
Let's hope he finds a way to hold on to that humor without losing himself completely. All right, on to day 5. Hey, love. It's weird, but I keep thinking about being a kid, sitting alone, just waiting for someone to come and play with me, to give me some kind of sign that I mattered. I don't even know why that memory is coming up. I feel stupid even thinking about it, like it doesn't matter. But here I am, still waiting for something, I guess. Why does this keep happening? I spent so much of my childhood alone. I remember being excited for my little brother's birth, like maybe he'd be someone to fill that empty space. But he only lived for 2 weeks. I was 2 years old then, too young to understand. But it must change things for my parents and for me in ways I can't fully grasp. So I filled that lonely space with my own imagination. And as I think you know, I developed quite the imagination, so it couldn't have been all bad, right? I remember my room as a kid. I had this mural on my wall, painted by my uncle, these figures of Winnie the Pooh and Piglet and Tigger and all those characters around this big Mr. Sanders tree. I pretend I could climb inside Pooh's treehouse, slide down a massive twisty slide, down and down and down, eventually falling into piles of hidden, buried pirate treasure. I created whole worlds in my room, acting out stories with my Star Wars figures. One time I tried to make Darth Vader land on the sun. I pressed his plastic foot against a hot light bulb. It left this black smudge, and I panicked. I tried to clean it with a wet washcloth. The second that it touched the bulb, it shattered everywhere. I wasn't expecting that. I knew I'd get in trouble, so I did my best to hide the pieces, to hide what I'd done. I did a lot of hiding back then. When I got my feelings hurt, I'd crawl into the hallway closet and close the door, staring out through the cracks, sobbing and heaving about how unfair everything was, how misunderstood I felt. Or sometimes I'd hide under the table, sobbing so hard it felt like I couldn't breathe. I remember waiting, hoping my mom or dad would come and find me. They rarely ever did. Eventually, I'd just give up and come out on my own. It's funny, now that I think about it. Even as an adult, I worked for a company that sent me all over the world. I visited so many countries. So many cool cities, Rio, Beijing, Barcelona, Copenhagen, and so many others. But most of the time, I was just alone in hotel rooms, making podcasts on my laptop. I didn't go out, didn't meet anyone, just kept to myself. I guess I just got used to be alone. Started to prefer it, actually. Strange that it's all coming back to me now. I guess it sort of makes sense. Love Dow. Wow, this is heavy stuff. He's diving deep into childhood memories here. And it's clear that loneliness and isolation have been recurring themes throughout his life.
It's almost like his current situation in the Abacus Project is dredging up all these past experiences, amplifying those feelings of being alone, abandoned. You can really see how those early patterns are still playing out in his adult life. Even when he had opportunities to connect, he chose to isolate himself.
That part about his brother and how his parents seemingly withdrew after that loss. It makes you wonder if that's where his need to hide to escape emotionally originated. He even talks about physically hiding as a kid, waiting for his parents to find him. It's heartbreaking.
It's a classic example of how childhood trauma can shape our adult behavior, our ways of coping with stress and difficult emotions. In Dow's case, it seems like isolation became his default mode, his way of protecting himself from further hurt.
But it's also fascinating how he found solace in his imagination. That Winnie the Pooh mural of the Star Wars adventures, it's like he created entire worlds to escape the loneliness of his reality. Do you think that's significant in the context of the Abacus Project?
Absolutely. If the Abacus Project is indeed using advanced technology to manipulate perception, to induce altered states of consciousness, then Dow's vivid imagination could make him particularly susceptible to their influence. It's like they're tapping into a pre-existing ability, a neural pathway that's already well developed in his brain.
So instead of breaking him down, maybe they're trying to amplify his ability to create, to imagine. It's a strange thought, but it makes a kind of disturbing sense.
It's definitely a possibility. We're venturing into uncharted territory here, but Dow's history with imagination could be a key factor in how he responds to the Abacus Project. It could make him more vulnerable, or it could give him a unique advantage, a way to navigate the strange reality they're creating for him.
Well, let's see where this goes. On to day 6.
Dow's childhood experiences are certainly giving us a lot to think about. Let's see what he shares in day 6.
Okay, here we go. Hey, love. Today, I tried rocking back and forth. I know it sounds strange, but it actually helped. Just this steady back and forth rhythm. I even started muttering to myself things like, it's okay, over and over like a kid. Positive affirmations, you know. It's embarrassing to admit, but it calmed me down. I'm probably losing it, right? Love, Dow. Well, this is a bit concerning. Rocking muttering affirmations to himself. It does seem like he's regressing, almost becoming childlike in his need for comfort.
Yeah.
Is this a normal reaction to this level of isolation, or is something more serious going on?
It's definitely unsettling, but it's not necessarily abnormal. Remember, we're talking about someone who's been cut off from all external stimulation, all sense of normalcy. His brain is likely craving input, seeking ways to self-soothe.
So the rocking the affirmations, those are just his way of trying to create some kind of internal order, some sense of control.
Exactly. Think about it. When babies are distressed, they often find comfort in rhythmic movements, like rocking or swaying. It's a primal instinct, a way to regulate their nervous system. And adults do the same thing, even if we're not always aware of it. We tap our feet, we doodle, we hum. These are all forms of self-soothing ways to manage anxiety and stress.
And the affirmations. It's okay, it's okay. It's like he's trying to convince himself as much as anyone else.
Absolutely. He's desperately seeking reassurance, and in the absence of anyone else, he's providing it to himself. It's a sign of his resilience, his determination to stay afloat in this incredibly challenging situation.
Let's hope those coping mechanisms are enough to get him through this. On to day 7. Hey, love, maybe this is almost over. Maybe they'll let me out soon, tell me experiment complete or something. I hold on to that thought for a few minutes. Then I see this empty room, feel the silence pressing in, and it just deflates. What if this is it? What if this goes on forever? I don't know if I can do this. It's like, sitting here writing like this, I think I just realized something. This stir-crazy, overwhelmed feeling. It is so familiar. The pressure, the restlessness, the need to escape. I can't count the number of times I've felt it. Like when we had that argument and I moved out. Looking back, I don't think I really needed to move at all. Except that I did, I guess, because I couldn't see any other solution. That's just what I do. I run from things when they overwhelm me. Either I push them down, bury them under layers of fantasy and distraction, or I just leave. It's been that way with everything. Work, relationships, even with you. And I can't stop thinking about my kids. Moving away, distancing myself. What did that do to them? The thought of it is almost too painful to even let in. How much of their lives did I miss while I was running from my own? This room, this silence, it's forcing me to look at things I've been avoiding for years. I don't know if I'm ready to face it all, but I don't think I have a choice. Love, Dow. This is so poignant. That flicker of hope followed by crushing despair. It's like watching him go through an emotional ringer. But what really strikes me is his realization that this feeling of being trapped, overwhelmed. It's a recurring pattern in his life. He's finally confronting his own tendency to run to escape when things get tough.
It's a powerful moment of self-awareness. The isolation of the Abacus project, in a strange way, seems to be forcing him to confront his own demons. Those deeply ingrained patterns of behavior he's been repeating for years. It's like the room itself has become a therapist, holding up a mirror to his soul.
They say that sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you could truly start to rebuild. Maybe this is Dow's rock bottom, the catalyst for real change, for finally breaking those destructive patterns.
That's an interesting perspective. We often resist change even when it's necessary. Sometimes it takes an extreme situation, a crisis, to shake us out of our complacency and force us to confront the things we've been avoiding.
But there's also a deep sadness here, a regret for the relationships he's damaged, especially with his children. It makes you wonder if this forced introspection is ultimately a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a double-edged sword for sure. Self-awareness can be painful, but it's also the first step towards healing and growth. The question is, will Dow be able to use these insights to make positive changes in his life once he's out of this situation?
We can only hope. Let's see what happens next. Day 8. Hey, love, I keep thinking about things I've done, people I've hurt. Maybe this is some kind of punishment. Maybe I deserve to be here, trapped with nothing but these thoughts. It's like every mistake I've ever made is staring back at me from these blank walls, whispering that this is where I belong. Part of me wants to believe that this is what I deserve. But then I think, what if I'm wrong about that? What if I'm wrong about everything? I tried ending the experiment today. I pushed the button on the screen. The one they said not to push unless there was a real emergency. The one that's supposed to connect me to someone in charge. I sat there, staring at the monitor, waiting for something, anything. Nothing happened. I pressed it again and again until my hand was shaking, but all I got was silence. Maybe this is part of the experiment. Maybe they want to see how long I'll keep going, keep reaching out. Or maybe there's no one there. Maybe there's no way out. Love, Dow. Oh man, this is tough to read. He's drowning in guilt now, convinced that he deserves this punishment. And then attempt to contact someone to escape, only to be met with silence. It just amplifies his feelings of helplessness and despair.
It's almost like he's reached a point of total surrender. He's given up, fighting, accepted his fate. And that fear that there's no one on the other side, no way out, that's a primal fear, the fear of being utterly alone, abandoned.
It really makes you question the ethics of this entire experiment. They gave him an emergency button, a supposed lifeline, but it doesn't work. It's like they've deliberately set him up to fail to experience this ultimate sense of isolation.
It's a disturbing thought. You have to wonder if they anticipated this level of psychological distress, and if they have any protocols in place to intervene if a subject reaches a breaking point. Or are they simply observing, collecting data regardless of the human cost?
Let's hope they haven't crossed a line they can't come back from. Okay, moving on to day 9. Dow's attempt to use that emergency button is truly chilling. It really underscores the power dynamic at play here. He's completely at the mercy of these researchers with no way to advocate for himself.
It's a stark reminder of the ethical tightrope that researchers walk, especially when dealing with experimental technologies and vulnerable subjects. The potential for abuse is enormous, and it seems like the Abacus Project may have crossed a line.
Let's see what day 9 brings. Hey, love, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. Fine, you win. Whoever you are, whatever you want from me, take it. I give up. Just let me out or don't. I don't care. I don't have anything left. Although obviously I do, right? I just don't know if any of this is really worth it. Love, Dow.
Man, this is just heartbreaking. He's completely defeated, resigned to his fate. That sense of hopelessness is palpable. It's like he's lost all sense of agency, all belief in his own ability to influence his situation.
It's a classic example of learned helplessness. When we're repeatedly exposed to uncontrollable, stressful situations, we can become passive, even apathetic, believing that our actions have no impact on the outcome. In Dow's case, the failed attempt to use the emergency button likely solidified this feeling of helplessness. It makes you wonder if that was their intention all along. To break him down, completely strip away all his defenses before moving on to the next phase of the experiment.
It's a chilling thought, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility. If they're trying to reprogram him to mold his mind into something new, then breaking down his existing belief system could be a necessary first step.
Let's hope there's more to it than that. Let's move on to day 10 and see if anything changes. Hey, love. It's strange, but I swear there's something else here. It's like a whisper at the back of my mind, something comforting, but also terrifying. It reminds me of that night we watched those shooting stars together, that feeling of being part of something so much bigger than ourselves. But what if this is just my mind cracking? What if maybe I'm not alone in the way I want to be? Wait, does that make any sense? It's comforting in a way, but it's also too much. I don't know if I'm ready for this. I keep thinking back to all those ayahuasca ceremonies I went to, especially the first one. I almost left before it even began. I'm glad I didn't, but after that first night, I was so shaken. The shaman had us all dressed in white, and it felt so culty and unsettling. I didn't really know anyone, maybe 1 or 2 people, but not well enough to feel safe. I still don't know what compelled me to do it, taking that kind of leap so far out of my comfort zone. That first night, I was terrified, afraid I'd lose myself completely, but I ended up going back 5 times over a year and a half, and it was transformative. I remember one night going outside while everyone else was deep in the medicine. I wanted to feel the earth, the night air. It was freezing, but I didn't care. I just lay down on the ground, not worried about the dirt or the bugs, and stared up at the stars. I could feel them. Then I got up, started walking, and this strange thought hit me. I created all of this. Every tree, every mountain, the moon shining down, everything. I was part of it all, and all of it was part of me. There I was, this little being, moving my legs in these great long strides, just marveling at the miracle of it. All of it, every last bit of it was alive. The stars, the earth, the dirt, the bugs, even the smallest parts of me. I felt this incredible gratitude, the sense that everything inside and outside was perfect, magnificent. Everything had a kind of bluish purple glowing hue to it. Wow, that's a good memory. I wonder what brought it back to me now. Love, Dow. Yeah. Okay, this is a huge shift. After hitting rock bottom, he's now describing this new presence, a comforting yet unsettling feeling that he connects to a memory of watching shooting stars. It's like he's experiencing this profound sense of interconnectedness, but he's not sure what to make of it.
It's fascinating how he links this new feeling to a shared experience, something outside of himself. It suggests that he's seeking validation, some kind of confirmation that what he's experiencing is real, not just a figment of his isolated mind.
And those ayahuasca ceremonies that he describes, they seem relevant here, don't they? The way he talks about feeling connected to everything, about experiencing a profound shift in consciousness. It echoes what we know about the effects of psychedelics.
Absolutely. Ayahuasca is known to induce mystical experiences, feelings of unity and transcendence. It's possible that the Abacus Project is using technology to induce similar states, perhaps tapping into the same neural pathways that are activated by psychedelics.
So instead of breaking him down, maybe they're pushing him towards a new level of awareness, a heightened state of consciousness. It's a risky proposition, but it's a glimmer of hope after all the darkness we've seen.
It certainly raises more questions than answers. What is the ultimate goal of the Abacus Project? Are they trying to unlock hidden human potential, to explore the nature of consciousness itself? Or is this just a side effect, an unintended consequence of their experiments?
We can only speculate at this point, but it's clear that something significant has shifted in Dow's experience. Let's see what day 11 holds. Hey, love, I just have to tell you this one thing real quick. Just now, out of nowhere, I smelled the smell of my dad's cologne. I haven't thought of that in years. It was sharp, like cedar and something spicy. sharp like the prickly bristles of his whiskers on his unshaven face. For a second, I was back there, a kid again. Dad fixed most of the stuff around the house himself, especially if it was broken. Some duct tape here, a bent paper clip or two there. He was creative and cheap that way. When I was 5, he thought something inside of me was broken, so he drove me out into the middle of the desert, blindfolded me, and stuck me in the middle of a cactus patch, shouting out directions to lead me out of it from the safety of the road. He did it to teach me obedience. He wanted me to learn to trust him and rely on him. I'm pretty sure it had the opposite effect. I only hit a cactus once, a small burr barely visible from the road. It got me on my bare skin right above my ankle. I'll never forget the valuable lesson I learned that day. It hurts less to be a cactus than a 5-year-old blind foot. My dad. And then suddenly, just like that, the scent of his cologne was gone, like it had never really been there at all. Just a ghost memory, I guess. It left this ache, and it made me a little angry and sad. I could really go for a cheeseburger right now. Love, Dow. Wow, talk about a sensory flashback. The sudden smell of his father's cologne, the way it transports him back to a specific childhood memory. It's amazing how powerful our sense of smell can be.
The olfactory system. Our sense of smell has a direct connection to the limbic system, the part of our brain that processes emotions and memories. Certain scents can act as incredibly potent triggers, bypassing our conscious mind and evoking visceral reactions and vivid recollections.
And the memory it evokes, it's pretty disturbing. His father trying to fix him by leaving him blindfolded in a cactus patch. It seems like their relationship was well complicated, to say the least.
It definitely raises questions about Dow's childhood, the kind of environment he grew up in. It's possible that this experience and others like it contributed to his patterns of isolation and escape that we've seen throughout these letters.
And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the smell is gone, leaving him with a mix of sadness, anger, and a craving for a cheeseburger. It's a roller coaster of emotions, isn't it?
It really is. It makes you wonder if the Abacus Project is somehow manipulating his sensory experiences, using them to probe his psyche to trigger specific memories or emotional responses.
It's a chilling thought, but given what we've already seen, it's not entirely out of the question. Let's see what day 12 reveals. Hey, love, I imagined you were here today, sitting across from me. I could almost hear you telling me to stop being so hard on myself, to stop shooting on myself. You know how you used to say that? What are you doing right now? I'm sure you have moved on. I guess I have to. Sorta. Maybe we can get together when this thing is finally over. I'd like that. Would you? Love, Dow. This is such a bittersweet moment. He's clearly longing for connection, imagining his acheation. Love being there with him offering comfort and support. It highlights the profound human need for social interaction, especially in times of stress and isolation.
It's a poignant reminder that even in the most extreme circumstances, our minds often turn to those we love, seeking solace in their imagined presence. It's a coping mechanism, a way to maintain a sense of hope and connection, even when we're physically alone.
But there's also a sense of resignation here, a feeling that he's been left behind, that his love has moved on. It's heartbreaking.
It speaks to the fear of abandonment that many people experience in isolation. When we're cut off from the outside world, it's easy to feel forgotten, like our lives are no longer relevant or meaningful to others.
And that tentative hope for a reunion after the experiment. It's both touching and uncertain. Will they be able to reconnect after all that he's been through? Will their relationship be able to withstand the strain of his experience in the Abacus Project?
It's a question that hangs heavy in the air. Trauma can have a profound impact on relationships, and it remains to be seen whether their bond will be strong enough to endure.
Let's hope for the best. Okay, moving on to day 13. Hey, love. My heartbeat feels so loud in the silence. It's like I can hear every beat echoing inside my skull. I don't know why, but it makes me feel small. Just this tiny pulse beating away in this empty room. It's the only thing grounding me to reality, reminding me I'm still here, still alive, even if everything around me feels unreal. Sometimes I feel it in my fingers, too. Love, Dow. This is such a stark image. His heartbeat echoing in this vast silence. It's as if he's clinging to that physical sensation as proof of his own existence, his own reality.
It's a common experience in sensory deprivation. When external stimuli are reduced, our internal sensations become more pronounced. Our bodies become our primary source of information. And even subtle sensations like our heartbeat or a breath can take on an exaggerated significance.
It's like he's trying to anchor himself to his physical body, to the present moment, as a way to combat the disorientation and the feeling of unreality that he's experiencing. It reminds me of earlier when he was rocking back and forth, seeking that sense of rhythm and grounding through physical movement.
Exactly. It's another example of his innate resilience. his ability to find ways to cope, to self-regulate, even when his environment is deliberately designed to destabilize him.
It makes you wonder if the Abacus Project is somehow factoring this in, anticipating these coping mechanisms, and perhaps even manipulating them to achieve their goals.
It's a thought-provoking question. Are they trying to break him down completely? Or are they pushing him towards a new level of self-awareness, a deeper understanding of his own mind and body?
Well, let's see what day 14 brings. Hey, love, I feel this weird kind of uncomfortable excitement growing in me. An old familiar feeling, really, like I'm waiting for someone to tell me that I'm doing a good job, even though I know that will never come. Even though I'm not doing anything productive, just sitting here in this room. I hum a lot to myself. It's comforting. I hope I'm doing this right, whatever it is. And I hope they're watching and they can see. I hope I make them proud. I've been keeping track by lining up the different hairs from my head. I pluck one out every morning I wake up and keep them in a pile in the corner so I can count them when I need to. And I think today is day 14. The quarantine should be ending soon. Time has almost lost all meaning. Love, Dow. This is an interesting mix of emotions. He's excited, anticipating something, but also craving validation, hoping that someone is watching and approving of his performance, even though he's not really doing anything. It's like he's internalized the role of the subject when being observed and evaluated.
It's a classic example of how our need for approval, for external validation, can be amplified in situations of isolation and uncertainty. When we're deprived of our usual social cues and feedback, our minds tend to create them even if they're based on faulty assumptions or wishful thinking.
And that detail about plucking hairs and lining them up, it seems ritualistic, almost obsessive. It's like he's trying to impose some kind of order on the chaos of his experience, a way to mark the passage of time when all other markers have disappeared.
In situations of sensory deprivation and prolonged isolation, it's not uncommon for people to develop unusual rituals or routines. It's a way to create a sense of structure, predictability, and control in an environment that feels increasingly unpredictable and uncontrollable.
And then that final line, time has almost lost all meaning. It's chilling. It really highlights the profound disorientation he's experiencing.
It's a reminder that time is a human construct, a way of organizing our experience of the world. When we're removed from our usual routines and social cues, our perception of time can become distorted, fluid, even fragmented.
This next part gets a bit strange. Let's see where this goes. Day. Question marks. Hey, love, finally, I can write again. I don't know what day it is. I thought I was done. I thought it was over. Then nothing. The screen didn't turn on. I couldn't write. I can barely even think. My pile of hairs has disappeared. I have no idea how long I have been in here. But this has unlocked something in me, I think. The walls. I can see all the patterns now, all of them. The white behind the white, like how sometimes when you just let your eyes kind of blur a little bit, like a little bit out of focus, and you can see the patterns, and they were there on the walls, and they were there all along. It's like that. I started seeing them there on the walls. That's how they started. And then it's almost like they were calling to me, and I started realizing that they were like chains of intelligent exchanges of information somehow, like maybe the way that my own neural pathways work inside of my brain, or the bonds between the atoms creating all the molecules. They need to be there. It's just how it is, and it's important. All of it is important. These patterns on the walls, they started showing me things. I have been learning so much. It's really exciting. I'm really excited to be here, and there's some exciting things that are about to happen. I'm sure of it. So yeah, don't worry about me. I'm fine. Loved out. Okay, well, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, there seems to have been a significant gap in time where he couldn't write. He's lost track of the days. His hair pile is gone. It's like he went through some kind of blackout or altered state.
The missing time is a crucial detail. What happened during that period? Was the experiment paused? Did something happen to Dow that he's not aware of? Or is this a psychological phenomenon, a way for his mind to block out a traumatic experience?
And then there are these patterns that he's seeing on the walls, these chains of intelligent exchanges of information. It's like he's suddenly tapped into some hidden level of reality, some underlying code of the universe.
It's a fascinating description, and it aligns with reports from individuals who've experienced profound altered states of consciousness, whether through meditation, psychedelic experiences, or even near-death experiences. They often talk about seeing patterns, connections, and hidden meanings that were previously invisible to them.
But what's really striking is his complete shift in tone. He's gone from utter despair and resignation to a sense of excitement, purpose, and even joy. It's like he's found something to believe in, a new mission, a reason for being in this experiment.
It's a dramatic transformation. It makes you wonder if the Abacus Project is actually succeeding in its goals, whatever those goals might be. Are they unlocking hidden human potential? expanding our understanding of consciousness? Or is this just a temporary delusion, a byproduct of the extreme stress and isolation he's endured?
It's hard to say for sure, but one thing is clear. Dow's story is far from over. He's undergone a profound change, but we're still left with more questions than answers. What are these patterns he sees, and what do they mean? What happened during that missing time? And most importantly, what will become of Dow once he's released from this experiment?
We'll have to keep digging into these letters, searching for clues to unravel the mysteries of Dow's transformation and the true nature of the Abacus Project.
Thank you for listening to Infants on Thrones. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into Dow's letters.
Thank you for listening to Infants on Thrones.